Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master. Welcome to my channel. I don't normally say that in videos, so I might start doing that. So, I did a previous video about how Dane County, Wisconsin is loosening up some stuff, which honestly, I was kind of surprised. Um, I didn't necessarily think that they wouldn't like rescind the household. No one is your household at your household other than people in your household or whatever order. But I'm a little bit pleasantly surprised. Um, wouldn't say that completely happy, obviously, with everything, but it's kind of one of those things that you just you wonder, where were they wrong in the first place? Where were they right? Who's right, who's wrong, what's science, what's not. You know, but I mean, overall, I'm happy about it. I'm not happy about all the restrictions still being in place, of course, because I want to go move on with my life, and but I'm happy that some of the more odious, the worst, most odious restrictions, some of the most odious restrictions, not all of them, are rescinded. So, what does this mean, though? Um, well, early on, there were a number of epidemiologists making predictions about the virus, and a lot of them were on the skeptical side. And clearly, in some ways, they were right. Or I'm going to get to that actually. In some ways, they were wrong, but in some ways, they were right. Now, they might have been wrong in some ways that we can say now, oh no, their predictions were off. But maybe in a general sense, some of them, like Sinatra Gupta talked about some of the stuff. Maybe they were right, and we're gonna see. We're gonna see in the next month or two if they were right. And of course, everybody's gonna. All these politicians and these, bureaucrats are gonna say, "Oh, we did it. We stopped the virus." If it does go better, they're gonna say the masks worked, even if some region had it for a whole year almost, and the mask mandates, and they're gonna say, "Oh, it worked," even though we had this huge surge. Well, we're not gonna talk about that, you know. There's gonna be places that where the deaths go way down and all this stuff, and they're gonna say, "Oh, it's because of the vaccine," even though like maybe only the health professionals got vaccinated first, and then it goes down. So I predict that Wisconsin generally might have been through the worst at this point. Um, could be wrong, but it really couldn't get any worse than it was in like November, December. Um, Cases have gone down, including in Dane County. Deaths have gone down. They were predicting this, would be the surge, the big surge, the second wave. Now, how these viruses operate and how these epidemiologists that I referred to earlier in the video have said is that obviously that's, the controversial term herd immunity applies here. Enough of the vulnerable people get infected, a lot of them will die. Now, if enough people that, don't die survive, they're going to have some immunity. I mean, even what's his face, Zubin Damania, who kind of was an asshole in one of his recent live streams. He was kind of a dick to conspiracy people and stuff, which I understand, but or anti-vaxxers. He was a kind of a dick to them. I understand why you want to say this stuff and what you're trying to do, but the way he was saying it was a little snarky, and I even for a guy that's been pretty gracious to the more skeptical side of this, he was actually kind of mean, honestly. I guess people do say like he's like, I guess it gets to him because people say he's compromised and all this stuff. So he has talked about the herd immunity thing, with regards to uh, the virus and stuff, and not vaccines as well in the past. I just turned off my computer, so it got a little dark. Um, so, what do I think is going to happen? Well, the astrology stuff with Saturn and Pluto, the surges and the archetypical explorers chart and all this stuff. That's a lot of woo kind of bullshit, obviously, but let's say it's coincidentally true. It could be true, coincidentally, let's just say, I'd rather err on the side of positivity than say that it's not true, that it is maybe more than woo bullshit. You never know. So I'm going to say that a lot of these people early on predicted that it would burn itself out through a region. And we may be seeing that in some places for real. And maybe we didn't see that in other places before. And I don't know how New York is doing, particularly, just like, was it, God, well, there was someone that pointed out, Nate Silver months back, and pointed out this article from Italy that said, oh my God, the second wave in Italy. And then he pointed out that it was a totally different region, and they forgot to say that in the article, that was affected by the virus. And he was like, well, maybe there is some, innate immunity among people. But if enough people, a lot of people were not exposed before that are getting exposed now. It's obvious. I mean, that's why the cases are going up. Now, I predict that since they have said that less people are getting tested, that could be one of two things. That could be people are having milder cases, and people around them are having milder cases as well. So they're not getting tested, or asymptomatic cases, or whatever. So they're not getting tested. Like, there's no need to test. Maybe they have the sniffles for a day and they think it's their allergies, or whatever. It could be that the cynicism and the conspiracy culture are so prevalent, and people are so sick of this that they're ignoring, getting tested. And it could be a combination of both. Now, I say it's ironic that, because I heard this on some radio station the other day, it's ironic that anybody would complain about people not getting tested as much when they say, oh, well, they say, they criticize people for saying that, well, more people are getting tested, that's why cases are going up. They criticize people that say that, but then they're going after people not getting tested, like, oh God, the cases are going down. People not if they say that it's because less people are getting tested, then they're fucking hypocritical, lying bastard fucks, just being blunt. So it's been so politicized in this country, that's ridiculous. And I'm finding myself kind of sympathizing with people that a year ago, like I said in a previous video, a year ago, I would have, wanted to disassociate pretty quickly from. But there's a few others out there, like Naomi Wolf and stuff, that have come to the more skeptical side as well. Now, that's not what this video is about, but more, I could foresee, and I'm not going to make a predictions video. This is not a predictions video. I could foresee that, at least in some areas, it will do very much that, burn itself out. I mean, if any of the midsummer serological studies were even close to accurate, then more people have been infected than once thought, like on a huge multitude of levels or numbers. So when we see this huge surge, this second wave, when, a week from now, I'll just say, I'm not going to predict this. I'm just going to say, I'm just saying hypothetically, a week from now, if deaths are down to, right now it's like 3,500 or some deaths a day. If it goes down, and I know the with the virus versus have the virus, and I'm well aware of that controversy, and I agree with questioning that whole process of classification, because from the beginning, that confused me, especially when I looked at the World Health Organization and when it said clearly that the flu was counted differently than this. It was, I mean, even back in the swine flu era. So, well aware of that. But let's say the deaths do go down, and actually, if you look at the CDC website right now, we're going down as far as excess deaths per year. And actually, ironically, for this time of year, the excess deaths are as high as like in 2018. Now, they weren't during the first initial wave. They were way higher. If you look at the peak of the chart, like back in April, May, it was pretty high. I'm not saying the 3,000 deaths a day that they're counting aren't happening. I'm just saying that the excess deaths per year are actually going down now. The downward curve. Now, of course, they're going to try to fucking, trot out the statistics the way they want to get people to do this or that. And generally that's happening. But that's one thing that surprised me about Dane County in general, is that the deaths did go down and the cases went down. So they lessened some of the restrictions. And if they go down enough, and, we got to differentiate between flu and all this other stuff, and I don't know what I'm not sure about all that. Like people say, well, they're not counting flu this year. No, they are, but it's just like we got to get off that probable cases thing. That fucks things up, and hopefully a lot of those aren't probable cases. But the testing has gotten, I don't know how. I mean, the testing is controversial too, and I know that. But if the testing is good enough to actually at least have some accuracy among some, many or even if it goes 60% of the cases that are sensed by the testing are accurate, then if they go down, then we know that it's going down, period. So I think that essentially, eventually, like if things go, if things simmer down quite a bit, let's say we went to summer levels in Wisconsin and Dane County particularly. Like I know November and December were the worst, or not now in December, but earlier December. But let's say we go down to like, there was one death per week or something, or cases went down, way down. I mean, I think eventually we're gonna know if there's some type of innate immunity, regardless of the vaccine being distributed and stuff. I think that's what's going to happen, and it could happen simultaneously. Honestly, as the vaccine rolls out, less people will die in general because the deaths have peaked and will be going down and loosening the restrictions, hopefully. So I'm very happy that Dane County particularly has reduced some of the restrictions. And I guess some people watching this video will be like, well, why don't they open everything up, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, in some ways I agree, but at the same time, it's like I said in that previous video, they've done so much of this. Even this looks like they're moderate in comparison to some of what has happened. It looks like they're moderating things a little bit. I mean, the schools being open other than virtually in Dane County, that was since like March. I mean, that was since the beginning. They were doing virtual learning since probably the end of the spring. Or spring and through the end of the spring. I think it was March or April when it all started. And that's a big time thing to turn around. Of course, people say, well, we didn't know the science. Well, yeah, maybe not. But there were people talking about that in the summer too, like all these studies that were coming out from Europe about how the kids going back to school there didn't suffer. There were hardly any cases, and all this stuff, and in-person classes can resume safely. But all the people were like, no, the sky is falling, But they made the decision now, and, obviously there's going to be some coronatarians that are going to attack them. The most extreme ones are going to attack them for that. Because there are people that haven't left their house since March, believe it or not. I actually know a guy that will not leave his house, pretty much. Won't go get the mail and shit. It's apparently the last we heard from him, one of the role-playing guys. Then won't role-play with us anymore. So, I think this is my hope. So obviously, I hope the action vaccination, as a quantum of conscience calls it. It's funny as hell. I hope that's not mandatory, right? And they may make it mandatory to some extent, or some employers might make it mandatory. But I hope naturally that the virus burns itself out even if it's at the same time as this vaccine is rolling out. I mean, if the my point, okay, so my point is with this video is I think we're going to go back to normal. I think some places will, even very liberal, quote unquote, places might go back to somewhat normal. I was surprised. I'm just saying, I was surprised. Like, if it's under a certain threshold, I think if it's under a certain threshold of cases and all this stuff, then I mean, obviously, of positive cases, we're going to open shit up, period. I mean, they're going to open stuff up. And it wouldn't surprise me if the lawsuit had anything to do with it, that Jim or whatever sued the city of Madison or Dane County or whatever had anything to do with that. But I think things will roll off eventually. I'm not going to make predictions and numbers. Well, I will make some predictions. All right, fine, fuck it. In a week from now, I'm going to look at the CDC website and see. This is what I hope to see. I see, look at the graph going down of deaths and cases. Now, it's not going to go down to like 50 a day or some shit, but over a week. But it might go down to like 2,000 or 1,500, back to that, within a couple of weeks. I wouldn't be surprised, because it's at like 3,000 now. Eventually, it's going to go down. If that happens, though, if it does go down to even 1,500, like in a week from now, there's no way that they can say it's a vaccine or anything like that. I just said vaccine. There's no way they can say that. They're gonna have to admit that they fucked up and that didn't have faith. I mean, it's not about faith, but it's just about a different approach to handling this crisis. So if that happens, I'll be celebrating, honestly. Like, if it actually, and the cases continue to go down, I do see that it's going down. It's starting to go down again in certain places. And Wisconsin isn't the United States, and it's not the world, obviously. However, it's a good indicator that things do follow a trajectory with this, as people have said for months. And this is similar to the original epidemiologists, what they said. They just had the timelines wrong. I think that's what happened. And obviously, you can say there's conspiracy, blah, 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 but the trajectory is pretty much the same. We're facing the worst of it now. I'm going to actually look real quick at some states that have went through these red zones. Were these red zones before? I'm going to look at that real quick and see. I think I did this before. Where's my mouse? Oh, fuck it. Can't find my mouse. Whatever. Anyways, where's my mouse? Just a second, I gotta find this thing. I don't know where it went. It's somewhere on the floor. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm gonna look this up real quick, and I will let you know what I see from Texas, because that was where I have a relative that lives there, and it's telling me that things were getting better for a while. But with this second wave, are things bad? I don't know. Of course, they could count things differently there. Of course, they do a lot of weird shit with this whole thing. Let's see. Okay, it did get pretty bad for a while. It went up. Let's see how that went. Oh, so it's kind of been. Did it go better? All right. Oh, okay. So this makes sense. So this is a little interesting. So we look at Texas, and it got really bad in like the mid-summer, which is interesting. Like July, August. And it's gone back up, but 288, 282. It's kind of been steady, which is interesting. So it's like since about November, October, it's been a little steady. It has been higher, but it's not been high as in the summer when, people were saying that they were in the red zone. So I don't know. You know, let's look at I'm going to look at New York real quick here too. New York. Oh, New York's gone up a little bit. I mean, obviously not like the original. Like, holy shit! Like, check this out. I'm just going to show it. This is. Hopefully, you can see that. It's gone down quite a bit. So there is a bump. Now there were 0 days in October. And they're about 90, 100. Okay. All right. So they have gone up, not much, though. Not much. And, obviously you can judge October. It has gone up. So not to even the thousands that were dying every day in April, May, though. So it's only like, let's see, what was a 97? 97. So in a way, those epidemiologists were right, even now, about New York and stuff. Because I'm going to look at one more place, and it's called Sweden. Sweden. And obviously they've implemented more restrictions. There's no way a fucking 97 deaths. Well, let's look at cases. I don't think I looked at cases. Oh, the cases have gone up and the deaths remain low. Wow. So like New York has 10 times, like this is the cases. And then the deaths haven't gone up. Case-demic, just like the right-wingers are call it. So, okay, so I'm going to look at Sweden. So some of those New York restrictions are a little ridiculous. Obviously, they don't want the cases, but the deaths have gone down, way down. So there might be some, like what they said, innate immunity going on with that. That would be my scientific, dare I say, thing. Okay, so new cases. There's a shit ton of new cases in Sweden. How many new deaths though? More than May. Sweden's doing worse. There was 0 on December 12th though, but yeah. I mean, this is kind of a ridiculous graph because it's like it's in that 200 range, like on the actual graph itself, and then other graphs are like thousands. So I don't know. Let's look at cases. Look at cases real quick. Yeah, it's about the same. Oh, there's a fuck ton more of cases. So yeah, it's kind of gotten to be where certain places are, like New York is doing. I mean, I would say New York's doing well in a way. I mean, they have deaths per day, but look at the population. I mean, I'd have to look at past deaths, in places, and there are places that are doing pretty bad. Supposedly, I'm going to look at California real quick too. Let's look at California. Cases way up. Okay, went down a little bit. Deaths are super high. For some reason, though, the excess deaths is not as. I mean, maybe they're lagging a little bit with that too. Cases went down. On December 16th, it was 245,033. And on December 11th, it was 285,514. So about 40,000 less cases per day. So that's pretty good. Not perfect, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think a lot of places will use those, those metrics as far as opening stuff up. And eventually people are going to get tired of all this shit too. And I think there'll be a lot of more lawsuits. I think we will be through this, though. I think we will get through it without, hopefully, some of the worst conspiracy fears happening. And It's only one way to do that, though, is by, trying to manifest that in your reality, in your life. You have to focus on the positive and try to live your life as best as possible. Um, I was watching some conspiracy stuff today, and I swore that off a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago. I'm like, I'm not going to watch that anymore, but I keep getting sucked back in. But I think the conspiracy theorists underestimate people in a way. They have a pessimistic view on humanity in general. They have and they have an oversimplified version of humanity as well. So I'm hoping I'm right, especially about where I live. I know that's a little, self-centric or whatever, but it's just like that's the way I want it to go. So do I think that we'll get better and we'll open up more? Well, I'd say like maybe in a month we'll have 25, not 25%, but like 50% capacity at bars or restaurants. I can see that happening now. So that changing, that rescinding of some of those rules really gave me a lot of hope. It made me really positive, especially seeing as that surge that they predicted never happened. The Thanksgiving surge they predicted. They said it. They said, oh, it didn't happen as bad. Well, I mean, sometimes I wonder if there's just two sides of the same coin. These conspiracy theorists saying the Great Reset, New World Order, nanobots, infertility, action jacksinations will happen, or the coronitarians saying we're all going to die, never back to normal. In a way, they're two sides of the same coin. The fear narrative where I talked about it, but good hope though. I'm hoping that it continues on this direction. That's a really good sign. And they're not busting down doors if someone's not wearing a mask at someone's house. I mean, they're not. I was scared they're going to bust down doors about anyone else in your household. That was extreme. But and like I said in a previous video, I don't think the restaurant thing is happening either, as far as if you're not a member of the household, because some of these people do not look related that I see at restaurants, that I've seen at restaurants since those orders were given, I should say. I mean, we all live in the same one-bedroom apartment that Chelsea lives in, or whoever the fuck the girl, I see these people around and like, no fucking way. There's no way. I did go to an outdoor seat. I had outdoor seating at a restaurant, but we were sitting indoors and she didn't ask us. I mean, we were standing indoors. We're almost going to get a chair or a seat indoors. So, but yeah, I have hope that we'll get back to normal. And I have a hope that some of these people like Sinatra Gupta or Michael Levitt or whoever were more right, bad with timelines, but right overall about the trajectory. Even if they fucked up the timelines, I hope they're right. And I hope these conspiracy theorists are wrong completely, of course. And that's about all.